Hi students, welcome to another session of my class. We are discussing poem Ruins of a Great House by Derek Walcott. Let us continue the poem. Yes, first of all I read the lines, then I will explain you. I climbed a wall with the grill ironwork of exiled craftsmen protecting that great house. From guilt, perhaps, but not from the worm's rent, nor from the parrot cavalry of the mouse. And when a wind shook in the lines, I heard what Kipling heard, the death of a great empire, the abuse of ignorance by Bible and by sword, the green lawn, broken by low walls of stone, dipped to the rivulet and pacing, I thought next. Yes, I climbed a wall with the grill ironwork. Yes, here the speaker becomes a person. I climbed a wall with the grill ironwork and not the first use of I. Please note that the speaker becomes a person here. I climbed a wall with the grill ironwork. Grill here means a screen made of metal bars or wire that is placed in front of a window, door or machinery in order to protect it. That is grill. So I climbed a wall with the grill ironwork. Here, the speaker becomes part of the ruined landscape, becomes active by climbing over the ironwork. And this crafted ironwork, that crafted protection, kept wealth and privilege. Actually, that gave the owners a false sense of moral superiority, and they felt no guilt. The wall may protect from the pang of conscience by blocking the sight of slaves. Actually, this wall was um, built by these colonizers. I climbed a wall with the grill ironwork, and this crafted protection kept wealth and privilege that gave the owners a false sense of moral superiority. That is, the wall may protect, and also another meaning of that wall is the wall may protect from the pang of conscience by blocking the sight of slaves. I climbed a wall with the grill ironwork of exiled craftsmen protecting that great house. They are creating a false sense, a false notion here. This grilled ironwork, this crafted work, it was built by that exiled people. That means that colonizers. I climbed a wall with the grill ironwork of exiled craftsmen protecting that great house from guilt, perhaps, but not from the worm's rent, nor from the parrot cavalry of the mouse. Actually, the wall may protect from the pang of conscience by blocking the sight of slaves, but it cannot prevent the decay caused by worms and mice. Yes, thus nature has take over the grill ironwork, helpless to stop the worm and the mouse. That is not from the parrot cavalry of the mouse. That is, but it cannot prevent the decay caused by worms and mice. And when a wind shook in the limes, I heard, yes, this ironwork, it is helpless to stop the worm and the mouse. That means the decay caused by worms and mouse. Then, and when a wind shook in the limes, I heard, that is the wind in the lime trees, reminds the speaker of a death rattle of empire. And when a wind shook in the limes, I heard what Kipling heard, the death of a great empire, the abuse. Yes, the sound of the wind reminds Walcott of Rudyard Kipling. That sound of the wind that reminds our poet, our speaker, what about Rudyard Kipling? Who has given this Rudyard Kipling has given an account of the British Empire. and also shown how the enforcement by military power and biblical quotations have justified the colonizers' doings. Yes, and when a wind shook in the limes, that is the sound of the wind reminds Walcott about Rudyard Kipling. I heard what Kipling heard, the death of a great empire. Kipling is an imperialist and he upheld the process of colonization, seeing it as the white man's burden. So, this Walcott reminds Rudyard Kipling his writings and he has given an account of the British Empire and also shown that is the abuse of ignorance by Bible and by sword. Yes, and also shown how the enforcement by military power and biblical quotations have justified the colonizers' doings. With the help of his writing, he has shown how the enforcement by military power, that is with the help of military power and biblical quotations, how they justified or have justified the colonizers' doings. And when a wind shook in the limes, I heard what Kipling heard is the death of a great empire, the abuse of ignorance by Bible and by sword. A green lawn broken by low walls of stone, dipped to the rivulet and pacing, I thought next, yes. The landscape, now the speaker speeds up close to or on a green lawn, yes, with low walls, thinking all time about the situation he finds himself in. A green lawn broken by low walls of stone. Here, now the speaker speeds up close to or on a green lawn with low walls, thinking all the time about the situation he finds himself in. He knows of the cruelties of the past. A writer, he knows of the cruelties of the past, seems to be weighing up and judging the cultural dilemma within. Saw a green lawn broken by low walls of stone dipped to the rivulet. Rivulet means small stream. Rivulet means small stream. And pacing. I thought next, yes, the landscape brought to the poet's mind British explorers. A green lawn. So that landscape brought to the poet's mind about British explorers like, that is, dipped to the rivulet and pacing. I thought next, the poet reminds of men like Hawkins, Walter Raleigh, Drake, ancestral murderers and poets, more perplexed in memory now by a very ulcerous crime. Yes, so that landscape brought to our poet's mind about these British explorers, explorers like Hawkins, Walter Raleigh, Drake, etc. And also the speaker sees them as murderers and poets. Yes, ancestral murderers. The poet sees them as murderers and poets. Raleigh was certainly a poet, but the other two not, Hawkins and Drake. Hawkins, Sir John Hawkins was a naval commander who led expeditions to West Africa and the Spanish-American coast associated with the slave trading business. That is Hawkins. Walter Raleigh, Sir Walter Raleigh had a long career as a colonizer and is a well-known writer and explorer. Drake, that is Sir Francis Drake, was a circumnavigator engaged in the Guinea trade with Hawkins, and Drake had made 3 voyages to the West Indies. So the landscape reminded the poet of these British explorers, of men like Hawkins. That means all these three personalities, they had that quality, or he considers them as murderers, ancestral murderers and poets, because yes, these three were colonizers. That Hawkins was a naval commander who held expeditions to West Africa and associated with the slave trading business. Walter Raleigh also, he had a long career as a colonizer, and Drake also had three voyages to the West Indies and engaged in the Guinea trade with Hawkins. So all three had that ancestry. So at this point, our speaker, our poet, the landscape of this Caribbean island, that landscape reminded the poet of these three British explorers, and the speaker sees them as murderers and poets, and yes, poets and murderers and poets. The fact that such a nation could produce both criminals and writers confuses matters for the speaker who uses English, yet whose ancestors were treated so badly. Yes, in memory, now by every ulcerous crime, is more perplexed in memory, now by every ulcerous crime. So such a nation could produce both criminals and writers confuses matters for the speaker who uses English, yet whose ancestors were treated so badly. And the world's green age then was rotting lime, whose stench became the charnel galleon's text. Yes, the world, the world's green age. Yes, the world was corrupted and decayed then. The world's green age then was rotting lime. Rotting lime in the sense means that is, yes, that is like in a decaying stage. So the stench of limes, that bad smell of lime, actually the that's rotting lime here used as a metonym. It becomes a metonym for all the horrid deeds perpetrated by the British, all the bad deeds or the cruelties or their uh, implementation of power, that colonization that perpetrated by the British, their system fueled by the slave trade. So the world's green age then was rotting lime, that the world itself was corrupted and it decayed then. That rotting lime itself, that means that stench of limes, that bad smell, that foul smell. That means that in a decaying stage, that represents that horrid deeds perpetrated by the British, their system fueled by the slave trade, their heroes, villains, that is the whose stench became the charnel galleon's text. Charnel means place where dead bodies or bones are kept. Whose stench became the charnel galleon's text. Galleons means ships. So their heroes, villains, their galleons, their ships writing the death warrants of countless African slaves, whose stench became the charnel galleon's text. That means writing the death warrants of countless African slaves. Countless African slaves were executed or died by the horrid deeds of these Britishers. The rot remains with us. The men are gone. Yes, the rottenness, that foul smell, that rottenness associated with slavery still survives among the ruins. The rot remains with us. Men come and go, but the rotten things they do remain even in the ruins. The rot remains with us. The men are gone. That is, men come and go, but the rotten things they do remain in the ruins. That is the rottenness associated with the slavery. These poor African people, they were considered as mere slaves. That's why, yes, these colonizers or Britishers, they wrought the death warrants of countless African slaves. And the rottenness associated with the slavery still survives among the ruins. And but as dead ashes lifted in a wind that fans the blackening ember of the mind. Yes, the idea of death intensifies this time, blown by the wind that disperses the ash. But as dead ashes lifted in a wind, that idea of death intensifies, this time blown by the wind that disperses the ash. It causes the poet's mind's ember to glow, but as dead ashes lifted in a wind that fans the blackening ember of the mind. Yes, just as the wind stir up a fire, the works of done, or that idea of death, or the past, the thinking about the past, that horrid deeds, the idea of death that intensifies his mind. But as dead ashes lifted in a wind, just as the wind stir up a fire, yes, that fans the blackening ember of the mind. My eyes burned from the ashen throes of dun. Yes, his mind is glowing. The speaker's, yes, mind is burning. My eyes burn. Yes, his eyes are burning as he thinks of Donne, a well-known John Donne, a well-known metaphysical poet. Yes, his writings, the works of John Donne, filled the poet's mind with renewed pain. The writings, the meditative poems, or the writings of John Donne, metaphysical poet, his works, yes, filled the poet's mind with renewed pain. Yes, but as dead ashes lifted in a wind that fans the blackening ember of the mind, my eyes burn from the ashen throes of Donne, just as the wind stirred up a fire. The works of John Donne filled the poet's mind with renewed pain. He happened to read some writings of John Donne, and the writings of these John Donne, yes, filled the poet's mind with renewed pain. Then ablaze with rage, I thought some slave is rotting in this manorial lake. Yes, ablaze means have an intense outburst of feeling. Ablaze with rage, I thought the speaker is angry. That expresses that intense outburst of feeling. The speaker is angry as he pictures a slave in the lake. Ablaze with rage, I thought some slave is rotting in this manorial lake. The speaker is angry as he pictures a slave in the lake. The emotions affecting him must be intense, deep, as they compete with a more thoughtful and cooling compassion. Ablaze with rage, I thought some slave is rotting in this manorial lake. Manorial means large country house, usually with a landed estate. But still the call of my compassion fought. Yes, but the emotions affecting him must be intense, that is very deep, as they compete with a more thoughtful and cooling compassion. Suddenly his mind is slowly changing. That is, at present, his eyes are burning, his mind is burning or blackening with a, yes, blackening ember of the mind. That means his mind is burning or his eyes are burning, but ablaze with rage. That is that outburst of feeling. So his emotions are very deep, but Till the call of my compassion fought that Albion too was once. Yes, but still the call of my compassion fought. That means, yes, along with this rage or that outburst of emotions or feelings, they compete with a more thoughtful. His mind is adjusted with or compete with a more thoughtful and cooling compassion. But still the call of my compassion for that means here in this line onwards, the mind of the poet is changed. From the opening lines up to this line, from opening line to up to this lines, we can see one emotion. That is his anger towards Britishers or colonizers, or his intense emotions, feelings, rage, angry towards colonizers because of their colonization or their horrid deeds towards these poor African people. But now onwards, but still the call of my compassion. Now his mind is changed, that his emotion from rage to compassion. His mind, that feeling, feelings in his mind is changed, that is from rage to compassion. But still the call of my compassion fought that Albion too was once. Yes, slowly his mind is changed and a compassionate feeling. He expresses some compassionate feeling that Albion too was once. Albion is an ancient name for Great Britain. Ancient name for Great Britain. One more question may be asked. Albion, the old name of England, or the ancient name for Great Britain. So this Albion invaded many times over the centuries and itself a colony of the Romans. That is now at present time, this poet reminds that Albion, yes, that Albion too was once. That's why his mind is changed, or that compassionate feeling he expressed towards that colonizers, because this Great Britain was once the colony. That Albion too was once a colony like ours. Albion, it was invaded many times over the centuries and itself a colony of the Romans. This Albion, this Great Britain was the colony of the Romans for around 450 years. For around 450 years, this Albion was under the control of Romans. And the speaker is trying to reconcile the facts of the past with his current feelings of anger. That's why his mind is changed, that the speaker is trying to reconcile the facts of the past with his current feelings of anger for misdeeds and abuse. He tried to reconcile that feelings, the facts of the past with his current feelings of anger for misdeeds and abuse. Then, a colony like ours, part of the continent, piece of the main, nook shortened, a rook overblown, deranged, by forming channels and the vain expense of bitter faction. Yes, the poet is reminded of the fact that England herself was a colony and was colonized by the Romans in the days, and he recollects Donne's words. That is, no man is an island entire of itself. Every man is a piece of the continent and a part of the main. That is, part of the continent, piece of the main. Here he recollects Donne's words. Our poet recollects John Donne's words. That is, no man is an island entire of itself. Every man is a piece of the continent and a part of the main. Any death diminishes everyone living, just as any small loss of territory is like the loss of a friend's manner. Here, there is not forgiveness, but there is a kind of understanding based on Donne's idea that no man is an island and that every man's death affects everyone else. That is, he is trying to reconcile his feelings or the past deeds with that present feeling. Every man is a piece of the continent and a part of the main. That is, any death diminishes everyone living. That every man's death affects everyone else. This recognition of humanity's plight comes as a surprise. There is a colony like ours, part of the continent, piece of the main, nook shortened, rook overblown, deranged by forming channels and the vain expense of bitter faction, all in compassion ends, so differently from what the heart arranged, as well as if a manner of thy friends. Yes. So every death, any death diminishes everyone living just as any small loss of territory is like the loss of a friend's manner. Donne made such an impact on the poet. Donne's works or Donne's words, yes, made such an impact on the poet that his feelings of outrage at the injustice meted out to the natives gives way to a feeling of compassion. Yes, that Donne's words affect him a lot. Donne made such an impact on the poet that his feelings of outrage, that his feelings of anger, that outrage, that intense emotion, that feeling, that angry at the injustice meted out to the natives, that for the cruelties that meted out to the natives, that is that African slaves, that gives way to that the feelings in his mind, that outrage, that feeling gives way to a feeling of compassion as he looks at the ruined house, which calls to mind the deaths of both the masters and the slaves. Yes, that the picture of or that the thinking of the ruined house which calls to mind of the poet the deaths of both the masters and the slaves. So this recognition of humanity's plight comes as a surprise. Past atrocities have to be faced, abuse and death admitted, and those who misuse their power brought to book. Here, how can these wounds be fully healed when there are so many reminders of past rotten regime in one's homeland and that is continuing somewhere else in the world right at this moment? So, this poem is about poet's feelings about his own homeland, that is Caribbean island. So the title itself signifies the ruins of a great house. That throughout the poem, the poet is expressing his feeling, that intense emotion regarding the damage and the decaying state of his homeland, that is Caribbean island. That land lost everything, culture, plantation, wealth, vegetation, everything, and so many African people, they were under the control of Britishers, and they were lived like slaves, and so many African slaves that died. So that colonization, that process and after effect of that colonization is described within the poem. And the title signifies the ruins of a great house. And at the end of the poem, the mind of the poet changed. That his feeling of outrage, that anger, that changed into compassion. He felt compassionate, or he expresses compassionate feeling towards these colonizers because Donne's words affected him. or made such an impact on the poet that his feelings of outrage at the injustice meted out to the natives that gives weight to a feeling of compassion because he looks at the when he looks at the ruined house, it calls to his mind the deaths of both the masters and the slaves because Albion, that is the masters, that is the Great Britain, was once the colony of Romans. Almost 450 years they were under the control of Romans and they also experienced the same feeling. So here he expresses that any death diminishes everyone living, just as any small loss of territory is like the loss of a friend's manor. And every man is a piece of the continent and a part of the main. This is the main idea that he is trying to, yes, express in this particular poem. I think all of you understand this particular poem. And there is a homework for you. And the homework is write a critical appreciation of the poem Ruins of a Great House by Derek Walcott. Thank you. Have a nice day. See you again.